It is the Royal Rumble tonight, and will Stone Cold Steve Austin and or The Rock be there this evening? We've got the very latest details on that, plus a ton of extra Royal Rumble news, spoilers and rumours. Kevin Owens spared Sami Zayn just 24 hours prior to Owens' undisputed Universal Championship match against Roman Reigns tonight at the Royal Rumble. What happened between LA Knight and Bray Wyatt last night on SmackDown? Speaking of Bray Wyatt, he's spoken on his WWE release, The Fiend dying at WrestleMania 37, and a host of other topics. Brock Lesnar will be in the Royal Rumble match tonight after appearing last night on SmackDown, attacking Bobby Lashley once again. The SmackDown Tag Team Championship #1 Contenders Tournament Finals will take place next week. SmackDown Women's Championship match is also going to take place next week on SmackDown. Lacey Evans is also in the Royal Rumble match tonight. Triple H spoke about what he thought Vince McMahon was doing in his retirement prior to Vince's return to the company. Sami Zayn spoken about the possibility of main eventing WrestleMania, and a WWE Senior Vice President leaves the company. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Happy Royal Rumble Day, and given that it's the Royal Rumble, there is just so much to get into in the world of WWE, the world of pro wrestling, and as we head into the Rumble tonight, so many rumors, details, possible spoilers, so we'll have to keep you a bit of a spoiler warning here. Let's start off talking about The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has reported that Fightful has been asking around about both The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Royal Rumble. Talent that Fightful have spoken to the tune of over a dozen, haven't been told anything, which isn't much of a surprise because WWE, particularly around this time of the year, usually keeps their cards close to the vest, but particularly right now, even Sami Zayn said in an interview, which we'll touch on later on, he doesn't really know what's going on. Now, talent hasn't been told anything, but that it's well known that WWE wants both of them. One even noted that the money increase between the pitches to Austin for Brock Lesnar in the fall and Roman Reigns in January was, quote, significant and obvious that WWE wanted him for something. The word that Fightful got back was WWE hadn't heard back from Austin about the potential match. Now, again, that shouldn't be much of a surprise because reportedly until the day of the show, the day of the event, they weren't even sure that Stone Cold Steve Austin was going to do a match against Kevin Owens last year. And the same thing happened 24 hours later. Until night 2 of WrestleMania, they weren't even sure that Steve Austin was going to do anything with Vince McMahon. So it shouldn't come as much as a surprise that Steve Austin reportedly hasn't said anything to WWE, or WWE hasn't heard back. But at the same time, that all might be a work anyway. We might see Steve Austin tonight. We might see Stone Cold at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. We might not. Now, when it comes to The Rock, there are several people who claim to have connections to the company that swear The Rock is showing up tonight. But so far, Fightful is reporting that they haven't been given any confirmation or indication that is happening yet. So at the moment, at the time of recording this video, both of their status for tonight is up in the air, but not completely denied, which is very, very interesting. Now, one name that isn't expected to be there tonight is Ronda Rousey. She hasn't been expected for the Royal Rumble since she lost her title back in December, according to Fightful Select. Her name may have been pitched recently, but those in creative that Fightful have spoken to have been operating on the assumption that she wasn't coming in as of back then. Now, what about surprises tonight? Surprises in the respective male and female Rumble matches. One name that could be a surprise is Chelsea Green. Now, Fightful Select haven't been told if Chelsea Green is being planned for the Royal Rumble, but reportedly there have been tentative creative plans for her to play a, quote, comedic Karen-type character based on what they've heard. And she's actually been signed to a WWE contract for a number of months now. And what about her husband, her partner, Matt Cardona? Well, reportedly, Fightful asked Matt Cardona flat out if he was coming in for the Royal Rumble, and he said, quote, in San Antonio, the day before the Rumble, what am I, a mark? The answer might be yes. We'll have to wait and see if Zack Ryder is in the Rumble tonight. Now, for those wondering, could New Japan Pro Wrestling star Switchblade Jay White, could he be in the Rumble tonight? Well, New Japan sources are claiming to Fightful he's still under contract to them as of the Royal Rumble. We do know that WWE does have strong interest. We do know that his contract is coming up soon, but reportedly his contract comes up after the Rumble, reportedly maybe around February time. So the chances of Jay White being there tonight are unlikely, but in a few months' time, could he be signed to WWE? Certainly anything is possible. Now, as for other New Japan Pro Wrestling stars, Hikuleu was also said to still be under contract to New Japan, but Tama Tonga's contract was supposed to be up, quote, sometime soon. So, Hikuleu, unlikely. Jay White, unlikely. Tama Tonga, Possible. We'll have to wait and see this evening. Now, one match a lot of people are looking forward to, of course, is the pitch black match between Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. We're going to talk about what happened with them on SmackDown last night, as well as Bray Wyatt opening up on a variety of other topics in a very rare interview. But of course, the pitch black match is sponsored by Mountain Dew because it's the Mountain Dew pitch black match. And it was a major sponsor of the WWE Royal Rumble, the press conference, and the pitch black match. So far, and when it comes to the elements for this match, Fightful are reporting there were a lot of neon elements involved in the match, altered lighting, obviously pitch black, and that rundowns were taking place several weeks ago, practice versions of this, because it's going to be a big spectacle and it's important that WWE gets it right. So they've been practicing this for a while, so expect hopefully to see something fairly smooth this evening, but of course, live television, anything can happen. As far as other surprises who we could see in the respective Rumble matches, Doudrop is in town doing media. We spoke yesterday that she's been off television due to a house scare related to COVID, but she's okay now. She's doing media. She's in San Antonio for the Rumble. She could be in the Rumble tonight. We'll have to wait and see, but she's training for an in-ring return as of a month ago. Big E is also in town. He's been doing media. That's pretty much what he's been doing ever since he broke his neck. Reportedly, he's in town to help the next in line recruits that have just been signed. He's been heavily involved in the scouting department recently, being a former collegiate athlete himself. He's perfect for that role. Another name that's been in town was Bo Dallas. Now, there are Uncle Howdy outfits set for use tonight. He was seemingly on SmackDown last night, as Uncle Howdy was on SmackDown. We still don't have a ton of confirmation that Bo Dallas is indeed Uncle Howdy, but that's the prevailing theory at the moment, and I would expect to see him so far this evening as well. Now, in addition to other things that's been going on during Rumble weekend, WWE is filming a lot of additional digital and Peacock content. However, Fightful have been told that WWE brought in nowhere near as many people or legends for media or filming than last year. Of course, usually when you've got these big tentpole kind of shows, when it's Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, they bring all of these people into town, make a big weekend of it, and they film Table for Threes, they film digital content, and reportedly this year, that's not necessarily been the case. Now, one name that's also been speculated for the Rumble match, or just to appear at the Rumble, is SmackDown commentator Pat McAfee. Of course, we haven't seen him for a while now. He's been doing College Game Day, but the assumption was he was going to be coming back to his broadcasting duties around the beginning of the year, which is where we are right now. Now, several talent, according to Fightful, were speculating that they believe Pat McAfee could be back soon, with one saying they'd heard his name mentioned for the Royal Rumble. Now, again, we don't know whether that's to be in the match. We don't know whether that's to be alongside Michael Cole. We don't know. But one thing's for sure, if Pat McAfee's on the show, that would be fantastic. Now, merchandise. One of the big things for the Royal Rumble is this big merch store, and Fightful are reporting that Cody Rhodes' merchandise has been selling like crazy this weekend, they are told. This is a story that's also backed up by Dave Meltzer in a Wrestling Observer Daily Update. He's reporting that all the original stock of Cody Rhodes merchandise at the Royal Rumble Superstore has sold out. It sold out yesterday. Now, Rhodes is, quote, easily the top merchandise seller of any star on the roster this weekend. Meltzer was informed that the merchandise will be restocked fully today, and Rhodes, of course, is one of the entrants in the Royal Rumble match, probably considered by many the favorite to win the Men's Rumble. Now, as of a few weeks ago as well, according to Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp is reporting that WWE had actually turned down a few names that had contacted them from past years about the Women's Rumble, and told some that they're more focused on active talent this year, which is quite interesting that last year they were heavily focused on past legends or people outside of the company, primarily because the women's roster had been so depleted by these budget cuts that they had to rely on NXT, legends, other names just to stock up the 30-person field. This year, not so much. WWE is actually turning down names, so they want to focus on active talent, which would explain why they've signed so many people and brought so many female talent back to the company. Now, last year at the Rumble, there was a strict decree not to use NXT talent in the Rumble matches. Fightful haven't heard if that's the case this year. There could be the one or two NXT surprise names, or they might stick with what they had last year, which was focusing on active talent or legendary surprise appearances as well. Again, I know there's a lot there, but there's a lot of moving parts right now when it comes to the Royal Rumble and the respective matches and the statuses of the likes of The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. What's really interesting about the Women's Rumble, as I was just talking about, is that According to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer Daily Update, he's reported that as of yesterday morning, the company actually doesn't have a final list of the 30 women in this year's Rumble, which kind of contradicts the report that Sean Ross Sapp had put out there, where he says that they're actually turning people down, they're pushing people away. These legends that are contacting them saying, hey, I'm happy to do the Rumble. If you need a body, I'd love to do it. They're saying, no, we're focusing on active talent. But then Dave Meltzer saying they haven't even decided who the 30 people are going to be. Now, the report does also note that there's been more than 30 women brought in for the show, but they will decide on which will make up the 30 in the match. And to be honest, that sounds like a story that's making a lot out of something that's not really there. It happens all the time in the men's Rumble. Sometimes there are just situations whereby a lot of people are brought in, they haven't decided on the final field, a couple of positions they decide the day of, that's it. So I wouldn't look too much into that. One thing people do look forward to, though, when it comes to the Royal Rumble is the raising of the WrestleMania sign. It's become tradition. Point to the sign, point to the sign. Win the Rumble, point to the sign. Well, now finally, we have the WrestleMania sign. We've had our first look at the WrestleMania sign inside the Alamo Dome. Here it is, right there. Look at that. It's a beauty. WWE has raised the WrestleMania 39 sign at the Alamo Dome ahead of tomorrow's Royal Rumble event. The Royal Rumble, of course, will kickstart the road to WrestleMania 39 at SoFi Stadium in Hollywood, California. It's become tradition that the winner of both the men's and women's Rumble matches will signal their path to the showcase of the Immortals by pointing to the Mania sign. WWE released a video on Instagram and social media all over the place of the Mania 39 sign being raised at the Alamo Dome ahead of Saturday's huge show. It's actually quite funny because if you recall, I believe, was it last year? I think it was last year. The WrestleMania sign caught fire. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year at the Rumble event. As far as other bits of news when it comes to the Rumble this evening, the Rumble is expected to break even more WWE records. So, of course, we've reported on this quite a bit recently, haven't we? Saying that Raw and SmackDown tapings have been breaking records for domestic gates in the history of the shows in the respective cities that they've been in. An example is the January 16 episode of Raw set the record for the highest grossing episode in Cincinnati. The January 20 episode of SmackDown became the highest grossing SmackDown in Detroit's history. With the Royal Rumble taking place on January 28, Dave Meltzer took a dive into the numbers in the current issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, saying, quote, due to the increase in Peacock subscribers, which hit 20 million at the end of 2022, just over double the number of 1 year ago and roughly 48% more than at WrestleMania, it's a virtual lock that more Americans will watch this pay-per-view than any in Royal Rumble history. It'll be very likely it will be either day of last year's WrestleMania, which are the two record holders for the most Americans watching a WWE pay-per-view show in history. The record will almost surely be broken for both days of WrestleMania this year too. In addition, the live gate record for the Rumble was broken some time back. As of press time, there were 42,972 tickets distributed, with a live gate that has topped $7 million. It was the largest live gate for any US WWE event in history that wasn't called WrestleMania and beat most WrestleManias in actuality. There was hope of hitting $8 million, a number that would equal or surpass Clash at the Castle, which was $8 million and 20,000. For the largest non-WrestleMania live gates in pro wrestling history. The secondary market getting price is $36. They will announce a figure in excess of $50,000 since they've already used that number on television. With the current advance, the show trails only WrestleManias from 2012 and 2019, as well as both shows in 2022, and will also trail both shows from 2023 when they are over. For now, it will wind up being either the 11th or 12th largest gates in the history of pro wrestling, depending on if it tops the Clash at the Castle number. So, a ginormous show, basically. A ginormous show we're looking at. Most viewed Royal Rumble, most viewed non-WrestleMania show. Maybe the biggest gate that isn't a WrestleMania gate. But also, what's interesting in that is you can see now why they're coming to Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank's coming to the UK this year because that's a lot of money they made for Clash at the Castle, and a lot of eyeballs watched that show. But it's interesting because that was inside a stadium. Money in the Bank won't be. Nevertheless, a lot's going on when it comes to WWE at WrestleMania, as we head to WrestleMania, as the Royal Rumble begins tonight. Now, SmackDown was last night. Yes, 24 hours prior to the Rumble was an episode of SmackDown on Fox, the Go Home show. And, of course, it was headlined by Kevin Owens going one-on-one with Solo Sikoa ahead of the Royal Rumble event. Now, earlier on in the show, Sami Zayn, despite being told not to, arrived outside the arena to thank Jey Uso for defending him during the Raw 30 Tribal Court segment and told him that if he needed anything, just ask him. Now, later on in the episode, the Usos got into a backstage confrontation with Kevin Owens. This led to WWE official Adam Pearce Pierce removing the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions from the building, Jey Uso made the call to Sami before leaving him and asked him for a favor. During the main event, it looked as if KO was on his way to a victory over Sikoa after hitting a Swanton bomb. However, Sami Zayn arrived and pulled Solo from the ring to avoid the pinfall loss. Post-match, Owens confronted Zayn before Solo Sikoa went for a super kick that accidentally nailed Sami. KO battled with Sikoa on the floor before it ended with Owens delivering a pop-up powerbomb on Solo onto the commentary table. Owens then picked up a steel chair and told Sami that the Bloodline is going to use this on him before hitting Solo in the back with the chair. Kevin Owens ended the show standing tall with Sami Zayn, thinking about what he had to say and what Roman Reigns might have in store with him tomorrow night. As I mentioned previously, Roman Reigns ordered Sami not to show up until this Saturday's Royal Rumble event. However, he broke those orders, and it'll be very interesting to see how Reigns will respond to Zayn disobeying him and getting involved on last night's SmackDown. Of course, tonight it will be for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Now, last night also featured the final show before the pitch black match at the Royal Rumble between Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. Bray Wyatt's in-ring televised return to a WWE ring. Now, Bray Wyatt and LA Knight, as I mentioned, had their final interaction ahead of the Mountain Dew pitch black match at the Royal Rumble. On the January 27 edition of SmackDown, the original theme music of Bray Wyatt when he was the cult leader of the Wyatt family played. However, it wasn't Bray Wyatt instead, it was LA Knight, dressed in Bray's old cult leader attire with the smallest lantern you'll ever see. I mean, literally, it was like this big. It was ridiculous. Now, after making his way to the ring, Knight sent a final message to his Royal Rumble opponent. As always with LA Knight at the moment, the promo was just absolutely brilliant, letting him know he plans to destroy him in the pitch black match. Before he could continue, though, Wyatt interrupted him from his rocking chair in the entranceway. Bray Wyatt told LA Knight that it doesn't even matter, the time for talking has gone. He said at the Royal Rumble he will finally get to meet the man he's been looking for. Again, playing very coy. Could we see a different version of Bray Wyatt tonight at the Rumble? Wyatt had one final warning by telling LA Knight, tomorrow night when the lights go out, you'll see. Now, from the rafters, Uncle Howdy stood over the festivities, looking on and seemingly signaling his potential involvement at the show tonight. Now, when it comes to all of this and Bray Wyatt, some people, myself included, have speculated this is all about the Fiend returning. The Fiend is going to come back. That's what Uncle Howdy's been telling him. Put on the mask. Put the mask back on. You'll never regret it and you'll never take it off again. Maybe not so much. Maybe not so much. Maybe we're going to see something different because Bray Wyatt has done a very rare thing. He's done an interview and he's spoken up about a lot of different things, including The Fiend, who he said died at WrestleMania 37. At Extreme Rules last year, Bray Wyatt made his return to WWE after over a year since his release from the company. Wyatt will make his in-ring return against LA Knight in this pitch black match tonight at the Royal Rumble. And ahead of this weekend's show, Bray Wyatt sat down with Ryan Satin of WWE on Fox for an interview. Discussing his previous incarnations, the former WWE champion explained he feels he cannot do the cult leader character without John Huber, better known as Brody Lee, who of course tragically passed away in 2020. Wyatt believes it would be disrespectful to do so without him, explaining why he feels the Fiend character died at WrestleMania 37. Bray said, quote, for me, the Hawaiian shirts, Colt Bray, he can't be without Brody to me, you know? So I can't be that without Brody. It's just not the same. It's disrespectful to my best friend. It just can't be without him. But The Fiend died that day in Tampa, Florida at WrestleMania to me, you know? And again, The Fiend is not just a goof in a mask like people think. That's just ridiculous. To me, it's so much more. And what you see, where all these things come from, you know, or how they sculpt me, or how they molded me as a human being. But he died that day to me, and it could never be again. It's gone. Interesting, he says it's gone, which could mean, possibly, does that mean that we're going to see a new Fiend, or we're going to see a resurrected version of the Fiend, or is that version gone? Or are we never going to see the Fiend again? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, when it came to his release, which at the time was shocking, of course, absolutely shocking. It was shocking. It was really jaw-dropping news when Bray Wyatt was released in July 2021. Now, in this same interview, Wyatt addressed his mindset whilst he was away from the ring and how it affected his return, saying, quote, there is a certain reluctancy to me where there hasn't been in the past. It's part of any athlete. When you're away from something for so long, there is something in the back of your head that is like, am I still it? Am I still what I am? What should I be? For the majority since I've been back, I was kind of there in a sense, and the weeks have progressed. I've started to come into my own again and remember why I do this and how much it means to me to be out there and perform at things like the Royal Rumble. The closer I've I've gotten, I've started to sink my teeth into being what I should be. Now, he's also spoken about his heartfelt promo. Of course, that promo after he returned at Extreme Rules on SmackDown was an incredibly emotional promo. And Wyatt, again, basically says he broke character. He said, quote, "Genuinely, that moment was not for me. During my time away, I had opportunities to do really cool things, movies and TV shows and stuff, and I wouldn't because I felt broken. There was something that was shut off, and I didn't understand why. It was literally people telling me and keeping me alive and dragging me back, telling me, you should still do this. We miss you. I didn't feel that way at first. I felt damaged. It was that gave me strength to kind of build back out and explode. It was geared for them. It was. I despise the way my mind worked. That's the truth of it all. I'm the first person to ever tell you all of my flaws. I refuse to watch myself back. I've never seen pretty much anything I've done. I can't watch. I'm kind of a head case, man. I'm also kind of a superpower. It's what makes me me, the obsession. When I'm geared on something, I'm so deep into it that there is no separating life from anything else. It just is. When I dive deep like that, it's what makes me connect. And it's the reason that I have fans that are so into what I do. It feels like I'm a part of their life too. If I didn't have such passionate fans, I wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't. It's them that led me back here. And certainly, again, Bray Wyatt, he has a huge following, a huge fan base in everything that he does. Polarizing, some people don't like it, but some people really do. Now, this past Monday night on Raw as well, at Raw is 30, Bray Wyatt had one of the biggest and talked about moments on the show involving himself, LA Knight, and the American Badass version of The Undertaker. Now, when The Undertaker left the ring, he whispered something to Wyatt, and Wyatt has spoken about the interaction. Talking about the segment, Wyatt said, quote, "I think everybody can kind of see it for what it was, right? When something like that happens, that's something that no one can take away from me. That moment belongs to me. No one else in the world, in the history of time, ever gets to have that moment. Nobody but me." What he said was something that I would only have understood and something that only I would be able to appreciate for when and where it happened. It was something I never thought would come, but what he said exactly is between me, him, God, and the devil. I'll never tell a soul. I'll go to my grave with it. But it was powerful and it was unexpected. Very, very cool. Something I will cherish for the rest of my life. So, it doesn't look like we're going to find out what The Undertaker said to Bray Wyatt. Brock Lesnar is in the Royal Rumble. Yes. Brock Lesnar, after attacking Bobby Lashley on Raw on Monday, did the very same on SmackDown on Friday. Heading into last night's go-home edition of SmackDown, only 16 competitors had declared for the Men's Royal Rumble. Making a rare appearance on the Friday night show, Raw's United States champion Austin Theory cut a promo bragging about his victory over Bobby Lashley at Raw 30. He was then interrupted by NXT Tag Team Champions The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. They were then interrupted by The Miz. The former two-time WWE champion declared himself for the Rumble. He joined Theory then in attacking The New Day, leading to a huge brawl that brought out another Raw star in Bobby Lashley. Lashley cleared house and vowed to run through every man in the Rumble, but Brock Lesnar then made his first appearance on SmackDown since August 2022 to lay out Lashley with a devastating F5. Lesnar grabbed a microphone and declared himself for the Men's Rumble. Brock will be looking to make history and tie Stone Cold Steve Austin with his third Rumble victory of his career. So Brock is in the Rumble and looking set seemingly for a clash against Bobby Lashley. The SmackDown Tag Team Championship number 1 contender tournament finals have been set for next week's show. A big change took place, of course. Originally, it was meant to be Drew McIntyre and Sheamus in the tournament, but that is not the case. On the January 27 edition of SmackDown, the semi-finals of the tournament to determine the next challengers for the SmackDown Tag Team titles concluded. As previously reported, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre were replaced by none other than Braun Strowman and Ricochet, who went on to defeat Hit Row to punch their ticket to the finals. That was after the Viking Raiders attacked the former Banger Bros in the middle of the ring. Later on in the show, Imperium faced Legado del Fantasma in the other semi-finals bout. After a bout that had fans on their feet, Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci put Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro away with the Imperial Bomb to advance to next week's final. This will mean that next week it will be Braun Strowman and Ricochet to determine, versus Imperium to determine who will face the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Again, it's funny because Wade Barrett was so right on commentary. He's going, this ain't fair. You can't, literally, the Viking Raiders came out and attacked him. And so Drew McIntyre and Sheamus ran to the back. Hit Row came out and I guess we're through to the finals. He said, no, we don't do buys to the finals, but I guess Ricochet and Braun Strowman get a bye to the semi-finals. That makes a lot of sense. A SmackDown Women's Championship match will also be taking place next week too. The SmackDown Women's Championship will be on the line on last night's episode of this show. Footage was shown of Charlotte being interviewed by Ryan Satin for his Out of Character podcast. However, this was interrupted by Sonya Deville, with officials having to remove her from the set. In a backstage segment, Charlotte Flair approached WWE official Adam Pearce and demanding a title match against Sonya Deville. Pearce made the rematch official for next week's show. Even though they were like, I'm not going to give out opportunities for free here, he then did. Because Sonya Deville interrupted an interview segment. I don't know. Lacey Evans made her in-ring return last night on SmackDown. After such, she declared her entry for the Royal Rumble match as well. So Lacey Evans is going to be in it in an online exclusive. Damage Control's Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai also declared themselves for the Women's Rumble match. So that women's field is populating, as I mentioned earlier. This is a fascinating story. So Triple H was interviewed earlier this year, prior to Vince McMahon coming back, right, on January 5th. On January 5th, it was reported that McMahon was going to be returning to the board of directors. And on January 6th, it was official. Now, just 2 days prior to that, Triple H spoke with Joe Otterson of Variety, and he was asked what his father-in-law was up to during his time away from the company. He answered, quote, "F if I know. I didn't know what he was up to every day when he was here. I'll be honest, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's keeping himself busy." He then went on to say, quote, "Vince was always thinking long-term, whether it gets executed that way or whether it wasn't, I don't know. But for me, it's how I think because it's how I was taught by him. I'm always trying to think about the long-term storyline. I was at SummerSlam, and one of the first things I talked to the team about, okay, where do we want to go for WrestleMania? What's the goal?" And I just think it's funny because I think he's keeping himself busy. He was keeping himself busy. He was keeping himself busy by preparing to return to the company. Be careful, Triple H. Be careful. Sami Zayn did a fantastic interview of Ariel Helwani prior to the Royal Rumble, and he was asked about a variety of topics, talking about could there be a situation whereby the fans rebel if he doesn't win the Rumble, akin to what happened with Batista winning the Rumble in 2014, with the fans wanting Daniel Bryan to win it. Now, he was also asked if he could main event WrestleMania and if he could win the world title. And he said, regarding this whole rebelling thing, he said, quote, "I don't think the fans are kind of where they were 5 or 6 years ago, where they would revolt. Like, no, Daniel Bryan is the guy. You're trying to give us Batista. No, we'll force you. I don't feel that level of borderline contempt for the audience towards the creative direction. I think because the story has been so interesting, there's a little bit of trust in that it will go where it goes and it will still be fine. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are pulling for me. That's great. It's nice to be that guy. But I don't think it's at a place where Daniel Bryan was in 2014, where if it's anybody but him, it's going to be a disaster. I don't think it's necessarily the same. Is there a possibility, whether it's Cody, whether it's anybody, if it's done right, you can do almost anything. It has to be done well. It has to be done just right. If it's not done right, there could be some kind of backlash to man. That story made the most sense. He was the guy fans liked. Everything was right there, but they went this way. If they don't do it right, there is a possibility of contempt towards whoever that person is, whether it's Cody, whether it's anyone. It could be anybody. If it's not done right, it could hurt the person. We work with a lot of people who know how to do things right. So if I'm the guy and I genuinely, as of this exact conversation, one day before the Rumble, I have no idea what the plan is. I don't know. It just doesn't feel that way. I don't know. I tried to listen to the fans. I tried to put not too much stock in the online kind of thing, but I'm sure there's a good percentage, like again, if you follow nothing else but the storyline, it's a layup that I would be in the conversation. What actually ends up happening, it's not in my control. I could win the world title. I could carry it for a while. I could do talk shows. I could do all that stuff. I don't know if I'm the guy who could necessarily hitch a wagon to for the next 5 to 10 years and be the face of the company. If nothing else, because I'm somewhat realistic about my physical, I'm not as big as Roman or Cena or Brock, and that's typically the guy at the head of the scene because they want a certain projection. I think for the long haul, could I win the world title? I think especially because of the way the story is done. And as I said a moment ago, if you do anything right, fans will buy it. They'll get into it. So I think at this point, the way things are built, I'm not saying this is what is going to happen. If it was me and Roman at WrestleMania and I beat Roman and we did it right, the way we've been doing it right the last 9 months, no one's going to go, bogus, I'm out. I can't take that because we've done it right. And I think he is right. Can he be the face of WWE? Probably not, in the same way that Daniel Bryan wasn't. But can he be a world champion? Absolutely. Of course Sami Zayn can be a world champion. Why not? Finally, we spoke about Vince McMahon and more office departures. WWE office has once again seen a shake-up. Mike Johnson of PW Insider is reporting that Matthew Drew, who served as the company's head of international, is no longer with the company. His official job title was Senior Vice President International. It was a short run for him, who only started with the company in 2021. WWE hired Drew after his stint as DAZN's Executive Vice President of Rights. Drew had been with DAZN for 4 years. WWE brought Drew on board with the goal of increasing the company's growth internationally. This is just the latest office change occurring in the wake of Vince McMahon's return to the company as executive chairman. Of course, reportedly, he's brought back some of his old people that he worked with in the office. He's now back in the office working on the sale. Other things we don't know about. But there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Plenty of Royal Rumble content coming today. We're going to have full coverage of the show. Anytime there's a match result or a big news story, a video will go up on the channel. We're going to be covering all of it. So now's the time to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on the like button. And let me know your thoughts on all of the stories in the comment section below. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.